It is Tuesday, October 7th. And yes, it is Tuesday. It's not Monday. We skipped a day yesterday, and for good reasons. I'll get into that a little bit later. But we did not forget about our Habs show, and it's very fitting because today is NHL opening day. Actual hockey, Snake. Real hockey is starting, and we are pumped about it. We're going to talk Habs prospects because they're all over the place, and they're doing well. We're going to tell you who's doing well and why. Later on in the show, we're going to get to some fantasy stuff because drafts are over, all right, and the fantasy season begins. So I'm going to give you a few tips there. And we're going to get, of course, to our mailbag of the day. So, Snake, without further ado, let's get it going.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
Producer Shayne here, joined as always by my co-host Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are we feeling today?
Doing great, Shayne. How about you?
Excellent. A little tired, but you know what? For good reasons. Because yesterday was a very, very big day. First and foremost, I'm wearing this shirt here. Okay, it's 10 a.m., 10 p.m. And the reason behind that, of course, is Le Sick Podcast avec Tony Marinaro launched yesterday morning for the first time. It was a resounding success. The studio looks amazing. Tony and Alexis have done a great job, and the whole Sick team are on top of it. Okay, yesterday was just huge, monumental day for the Sick Podcast Network. And myself, I wasn't in studio yesterday. Instead, I was at Place Belle for Rocket Media Day. And I was hanging out with a few guys such as Florian Xhekaj, for example. Luke Tuck was there. Also spoke with our friend Joshua Roy and Sean Farrell as well. So I didn't get to sit down with Jacob Fowler, unfortunately, but I said what's up to him. He passed by. So it was a fun day yesterday, very busy, and that's why we weren't able to record. My day started at 8:30 in the morning and finished at 10 p.m. So, yeah, it was one of those days. But you know what? It was so much fun, and we got some good stuff. Okay, you might see a few of these faces linked to Trust the Process later on. Just teasing a little something there. But now jumping into today's show, however, okay, we could not do the Habs show. Obviously, and it's very relevant because Habs prospects are playing. We finally have real games to talk about, and Snake, I think the one prospect that's kind of, getting the most attention right now is the guy who's got 7 points in 2 games, that being Michael Hage. Now, let me preface by saying that Michigan was playing against Mercyhurst the last 2 games, and they outscored them. Wait for it. 18-1. So it was a bit of an unbalanced matchup, but nonetheless, 7 points in 2 games for Michael Hage. And we talked about him before, Snake. You said that, you know what, he needs to be at Hobey Baker level contention this year. So far, so good, right?
Well, yeah, there's 10 finalists. I think he can be in the top 10. 7 points doesn't hurt, obviously. Although those 7 points, I wouldn't really consider them if I were a voter. And you know what? I love Michael Hage. So this is not a, I'm not denying that he had a great weekend. But Mercyhurst is a very, very weak hockey program. And it reminds me of football. In the NCAA, during the first or the second weekend, teams play against these very weak opponents just as a warm-up. So instead of having an exhibition game, they play these type of games before the real stuff starts, like in the Big Ten for Michigan. And I don't know about hockey, but I know in football, some of these schools can be paid like $2, $3, $4 million just to get a pounding. 73 something, and it's exposure for them. So look, Mercyhurst is like a preseason game in my book, but Michigan, I could tell because I watched the games, because I want to see how Hage was doing, even though it was a weak opponent. And I think Michigan is much, much stronger this year. And this is going to help Hage because he's not going to be playing by himself like he did last year. So, I do foresee a top 10 finish in the Hobie Baker Award for this guy. And I think it's going to be his last season at Michigan. And honestly, if he keeps playing like this, I think he could make the jump to the NHL next October. If not, give him a month or two in Laval, get 20 points in 15 games. He's up. He's never going down again. No, that's my take on Michael Hage. Love Michael Hage. Just calming down fans a little bit. He's not going to have 5 points every game. But looking forward, I think I mentioned it before. He's playing Harvard at the end of November for 2 games. They're coming to Harvard. I'll be there for both games. So eventually, obviously, on Trust the Process, we will discuss that weekend because I'm going to see him in person. Video is nice, but it's good to see players in person.
Absolutely. That's going to be good. And speaking on Michigan, their next 2 games are against Providence. So that's more of a challenge. Now will be the litmus test. Okay. We'll finally see, against a stronger opponent, what Michigan looks like and what Michael Hage looks like.
Yeah. Providence has Roger McQueen this year, top 10 pick. They also have a Habs pick
Logan Sawyer.
Logan Sawyer, who had 4 points this weekend, albeit in an exhibition game against Quinnipiac. But Logan Sawyer, to me, is kind of a wild card. He's the prospect no one talks about, really. Yeah, but I really see a bottom 6 player with this guy because he's a relentless worker. He's a good skater, and he has some offensive touch, which I think is necessary because if you're going to be a bottom 6 player in the NHL, you still have to be able to manage a little bit of offense, generate a little bit of offense. Logan Sawyer, don't discard him, although no one talks about him like this guy. And Providence plays the low-scoring games, so it's going to be good to see how Michigan reacts to this. Providence always tries to win games 2-1. I saw them live last year twice, and that's their style of hockey. So don't be fooled by Logan Sawyer's numbers. If they're not great, it doesn't mean he can't play. It's just that this is the type of program he's in.
Exactly. No, that's going to be fun to watch. And why don't we stick around in the NCAA for a second here and talk about a fan favorite, an LJ Mooney, 2025 draft pick playing for Minnesota Gophers. Had a few points so far in the season. How's he looking?
Yeah, watched his shifts, not the whole game, but his shifts. He was playing a decent opponent, so it was a good benchmark. Look, 18-year-old guys in the NCAA usually don't play much unless they're stars. And I think he could be a star in Minnesota. I probably it would be good for him to play 2, maybe 3 years over there before he moves on, but at least 2 years, I would say. But at age 20, I like to see these guys turn professional. I like just the way junior hockey players go to the American Hockey League at age 20. I want NCAA players to go to the American Hockey League. Now, pros and cons. Obviously, there's a reason why LG Mooney was chosen in the 4th round. He's 5'7". Yes, Alex DeBrincat, Cole Caulfield are 5'7", but they are exceptions. The thing is, when you see a 5'7" player, you want a guy who skates fast. And preferably, LG Mooney is quick. Mm-hmm. He does these spinoramas. And he's very evasive. Yeah. So that's a very, I give him very high marks. He has superb hands. So he can make plays. He was really, really, you could see him. I mean, for a guy who was playing his first couple of NCAA games, age 18, for a strong program, you could tell that LG Mooney was on the ice. It's not like, oh, well, where's this guy? I haven't seen him. No, he did do well. He made a couple of spectacular plays. Now, I would say the cons, beside his height, is sometimes he tries to do a little bit too much with the puck. Like he's gonna He's going to go around one player, but it's almost like he wants to go around the same player again. So I think he has to learn at some point to be a little less fancy. I do like the fact that he goes in traffic. So he's small, but he's not afraid, which also is something that I really, really look hard for. I don't like players who play like in the periphery. This is, to me, this is a no-no. This guy does not play in the periphery. However, so far, he hasn't been with the NTDP. He's never been a great finisher. So who knows how many goals he'll score. But he's a playmaker, at least. We'll see. Maybe he'll develop that side of his because he's so talented. Look, they're throwing a dart. He's a fourth-round guy who's 5'7". Probably had he been 5'10", 5'11", he would have been a first-round pick. Maybe, I don't know, around 20th or something, like Michael Hage was. But this is the kind of dart that I like because maybe the guy will never make it, but at least it's interesting to follow him. Sometimes, teams draft these guys and you're thinking, oh my God, best case scenario. This is a fourth liner. Oh my God, this is so dull. This guy is going to be fun. So who knows where it'll take him? But I was really, I was really excited by his first weekend.
Absolutely, and talk about a fun player to watch. That's LJ Mooney, and you know what? I think the Habs had a theme for the 2025 draft because they took some fun players, and the first one they did take was Alexander Zhuravsky. Now he got back to playing after his basketball injury. I don't know, he tweaked his ankle or something, but he is playing now, and is he ever? 4 points in 3 games with UFA so far in the KHL, and I think Habs fans know from what we saw last year how difficult it is for 18-year-olds in the KHL, not only to get ice time, but to get points. I mean, we saw it with Ivan Demidov, at sometimes he was playing like 2 minutes a game, so different situation with Zhuravsky, but still encouraging. And you know what, Snake, those points, he earned them. All right. It's not just a lucky bounce.
Very nice place. For those who watch the Twitter highlights, very nice place. So I went beyond the highlights, obviously, as I always do, because I try not to get excited. A la Matthias Norlinder a few years ago.
Oh, boy.
The Twitter star. So I watched his shifts. I watched the 3 games. And here there's nothing I didn't like about this guy, honestly. I loved him at the draft. I had him ranked 17, whereas I've seen some, list where he was rated, 70 or 64 or something. Not many people had him in the first round, at least not the draft experts, who publish lists every year. And first of all, he plays a lot, between 15 and 17 minutes a game, which is great. Is this going to last? I hope so. Because in the KHL, you never know. Some games, Ivan Demidov was playing 4 minutes for absolutely no reason at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, look, here's what I liked about him. He's not, he has the reputation of not being the fastest skater, but I saw him one of the games. He came back from his own to back check, and he practically took the puck away from a guy who was going to the net. So maybe, so I think his speed will not be an issue in the NHL. He's not going to be a burner, but it's not going to be an issue. I like the fact that his feet are always moving. The guy is constantly moving on the ice. He's always trying to anticipate play, either to get the puck or take a shot or trying to see what's happening. He works hard in his own zone, which is something that a lot of Russian players have a reputation for not doing. Mm-hmm. And I can see an NHL game in this guy. I can see this guy in an NHL game. He's under contract until 2027. That's fine. But by in 2027, I want him here. Yeah. And this is another guy. If he continues like this is straight to Montreal also. Mm-hmm. There's no Laval. Now, if they can get him out of the KHL at the end of the year, perhaps at age 19, few games in Laval would be good, maybe half a season or something, just to get more used to the North American game. But I think already he plays a North American game in a way that he works hard, and what he does is transposable. His hands, the way he works with the puck, it's transposable. And in the KHL now, almost, if not every rink now is North American size. So it's not like Sweden or Finland, where basically it's wider and it's harder to evaluate players because there's not much contact. But this guy at in the KHL, you can see that it's NHL size. And again, KHL players, when they're like 22, 23, like Shabanov coming to the Islanders,
right?
So poolers are asking me, should I take him? I really don't know. To me, these guys are a mystery. They could be Artemi Panarin, or they could become Vadim Shipashev. You remember this guy? He was the best player in the KHL. Came to Vegas, played 3 games, and it's like, okay, goodbye, I'm leaving. I mean, he couldn't follow the NHL pace. But other guys like Evgeny Dadonov, who played briefly in Montreal, he's been a good NHL player. So it's very hard. But when you see an 18-year-old play like Zorovsky does, and Demidov last year, etc., Mishkov the year before, that he's going to be a good NHL prospect. Absolutely. So very good news on the prospect front. Well, at least the guys you mentioned. Look, they're not all going to make it, but we're mainly going to talk about those who have a chance.
So far, so good. And Snake, I'm wondering, and this kind of applies to Michael Hage as well. Not necessarily the physical aspect, because they're never going to be bangers. They're never going to be power forwards. Speaking of Hage and Zorovsky, but part of the criticism, if you will, was that they were a bit slender, right? Maybe a little easy to push around. Now, Michael Hage, I heard Manon Réaume, whose son, by the way, plays with Michael Hage in Michigan.
Dakota. Yeah.
Manon said that Michael Hage is significantly stronger now. It's only been 2 games. We haven't really seen the extent of that, but it's, he said it himself in the offseason, put on some pounds, worked hard in the gym. So feeling good about that. But what about Zorovsky? How is he handling playing against men, right? It's not the MHL anymore. This is the KHL. Is he getting pushed around?
No, he doesn't. Obviously, the KHL is not the NHL. Okay, there's never going to be as much contact in the KHL than in the NHL or the NHL playoffs, basically.
Of course not. No.
So we're not there yet. But no, I thought he was pretty slim last year, and it wasn't a concern because he's 6'1". So in a 17-year-old who's 6'1", obviously can easily gain 20, 30 pounds and of muscle over the years. But this year, I did not see anything where I could say, oh, okay, he's a little bit weak. Oh, he needs to get stronger, because I see this with with players sometimes.
Yeah.
Player I love, as you know, Trevor Connolly. He's not very strong. I mean, the guy's 6'1", but I don't know what he did last year at Providence, but he didn't gain weight because he played in the American Hockey League at the end of the year, and he was easily pushed around, bounced around. But Zorovsky, I don't have an issue with his build. We're always hoping that players get stronger and stronger and stronger as they age and mature. But no, not a concern.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. Now, Snake, switching over to, I guess, the professional side, because there are prospects that are within the Habs system right now, and 2 that are making, I guess, not really their debuts, but, on opening night lineup, and starting with the early Calder favorite, Ivan Demidov is set to play on the line with Oliver Kapanen and Alex Newhook. Last year, I remember they were trying Demidov with, Doc and Laine, or no, they didn't try Doc and Laine. They tried with Laine and Newhook, right? There's Laine, Newhook. And then they switched out Laine for Evans and put Newhook on the wing. And that actually worked. So this is a little bit similar, right? Switching Evans with Kapanen, Newhook on the wing in preseason. Again, just preseason, but it looked decent. What do you think about that line? Do you like that combination? Do you think we can get the most out of Ivan Demidov with those players beside him?
Well, I think the obvious answer is no. The question is, can you get something out of Ivan Demidov? I'm sure, because the guy doesn't need 2 line mates, 2 superstar line mates to be Ivan Demidov. But it's not optimal. obviously Oliver Kapanen, is not a number 2 center in the NHL, especially not on a contending team or a future contending team. So I think this is just a patch-up job. That's what they have right now. But I don't see this line necessarily staying together for months and months and months. That's what they have right now. Mm-hmm. But what are the other options? I don't know. I really don't know. This is look. They just need a better 2C coming up. But they're on the farm team now. If you want to know what I mean, they're on the prospects list. Exactly. But this year, look, I'm just glad that Kent Hughes didn't panic and didn't just sign any dude, for $6-7 million bucks. Mm-hmm. For like 5-6 years, just to say, well, we got a 2C now, but it's not really a 2C, or it's an overpaid player.
Yeah.
So let's be patient. But Kapanen, obviously, in my book, is not the solution to the second line center. Kapanen, at some point, to me, will be a fourth liner or a 13 forward if he doesn't go back to Liga in a couple of years. My take on this guy, you know how it is. If I'm wrong, you can make fun of me.
You'll be the first to say that you were wrong, though, and I appreciate that.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And I was talking to hockey people recently in arenas, and they don't see anything in this guy. They don't dislike the player. They don't say it's so bad, but they don't see anything that stands out. Because even a guy like Owen Beck, you can see that the guy, there's something standing out. It's his physical work, it's his energy. So you can see something. You can see transposable qualities in the NHL. Maybe not to be a high scorer, but if someone told me that Beck would play like 200-300 games in the NHL on a bottom six, I'd be like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Kapanen, nothing stands out. He's not a grinder. He's not a superb passer. He's not a scorer. He doesn't generate much offense. Doesn't go to the slot. Doesn't go in traffic. He's not a banger. So what do you do with this guy? Might look good with Demidov. Who knows? He might look good, but that usually that's a flash in the pan. A guy like Demidov cannot make a guy like Kapanen be a great centerman for like 3, 4, 5 years. Could work for a few games, especially at the beginning. You know how it works in October. October hockey and February, March hockey is very different.
Right. Yeah.
That's where we get all excited about the rookies and then they hit the wall. So we'll see. We'll talk about Kapanen maybe, in a month or two. We'll see what happens. But this is obviously, to me, a short-term solution. Look, I like Ab's prospect, but Shayne, I got to be honest. I don't love every one of them.
Of course.
First of all, that would be ridiculous because most prospects don't make it. And second of all, at least fans know where I stand. So when I love a guy, I love a guy. When I don't like a guy, I don't like a guy. So sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But at least fans get an honest point of view from an objective point of view, I would say.
That's what we're all about here at Trust the Process. All right. We will tell you how it is. Like we won't sugarcoat anything. But listen, we've talked at great lengths about Oliver Kapanen, and you've talked about him as well on Mathias et le Serpent at great lengths. So we'll keep this short, but I still have a few questions about him.
Oh, no.
Not about the player itself, more so about him making the team, right? Yeah. He didn't even play in the last preseason game. It seemed like his spot was locked in. Mm-hmm. And I guess it kind of has to do with the fact that, okay, he did show chemistry with Demidov. He was basically the only center to show chemistry with Demidov. They haven't tried him with Suzuki, of course, but not yet. I think that kind of play a part in him making the team. Would you have kept Kapanen over Florian Xhekaj or even Sammy Blais, who, went on waivers and got claimed, lost him for nothing? What would you have done?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the fact that Kapanen is 1 year older than Owen Beck and Florian maybe had to do with the fact that they kept him. Like, he has experience. He played 18 games last year, plus a few playoff games, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he was a step ahead of these guys because of his experience, let's call it, in the NHL, and the factors that you just mentioned. Look, I just think he's there by default. Would I have kept him? What were the options? You want to play Kirby Doc with Demidov?
That's it.
Look, we'll see. I think it's a work in progress. It's an experiment. Preseason games are what they are. Then October hockey is what it is. And then come November, then it becomes a little bit more serious. And then you see you can sort out this type of thing. It's okay for Owen Beck and Xhekaj to go back to Laval because they're going to play a lot. And I assume that, I think we're going to talk about the Rocket lineup afterwards. And I want to mention a couple of things about these guys. But by default, I probably would have kept Kapanen, but
anything can change, right? I mean, Laval's really close and they're just one call up away. And speaking of the Rocket, let's get into them now, starting with the player who made probably the most waves in the preseason, Florian Xhekaj. A lot of fans were sad to see him go down. They thought, okay, he's earned a spot and he brings a dimension that the Habs so desperately needs. Let me remind everyone that not every game is going to be Montreal, Ottawa, and Quebec, okay?
No.
It's not going to be an all-out brawl for 60 minutes. Most hockey games will be hockey games. Now, Florian Xhekaj is also a pretty good hockey player, but logistically speaking, I think we both agree made sense for both parties to go down to Laval, start the season in Laval. But how long until he could get called up, you think?
I think it depends on how much he scores. Look, last year he scored 24 goals, but his shooting percentage was very high. This is not going to happen 2 years in a row. So if he wants to match these totals, he has to shoot more. He has 1 year experience under the belt. So it's his second year as a 21-year-old forward in the AHL. And usually good forwards don't stay long in the AHL. And I think Florian has to show that next year he could be a full-time player for the Habs.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to keep these guys in the AHL, these forwards. I'm not talking about goalies and defensemen. But when you talk about forwards, usually forwards, if they're going to make the team, they're going to make the team before the end of their entry-level contract. So I think if he plays the way he did last year and even better, I think he might secure a place, a spot. But the thing is right now, they have Anderson, Gallagher, who still are under contract for big money. So you have to find a spot for this guy. And it's not necessarily easy to find a spot, especially that he's probably going to play as a winger in the NHL. So there's only, when you think about it, there's only 8 spots on the wings. So, but Laine, I don't think is going to come back. But who's going to come in? Will Michael Hage be in the lineup next year? Is he going to play center? Is he going to play wing? So it's all a big puzzle. But I think Florian has a chance because he has a skill set that other prospects don't have. And you need a little bit of everything on a team. So if he's a tough guy who can score a few goals and play, 10 minutes a game, and that's very useful. Exactly.
No, he's got the X factor. A lot of people like to call him the unicorn because he can just about do anything. But staying on the Rocket now, aside from Jacob Fowler, I think we both agree he's the prospect to watch this season in Laval. Are there any others, not necessarily rookies, but prospects, young players that you're keen on, you think could maybe break out, show some nice flashes? What are we thinking?
Well, let's start with the forwards, okay? I have the list of forwards here. I like the fact that they have 2 seasoned veterans in Alex Belzile and Lucas Condotta. That's fantastic. And the rest of the team, it's mostly players aged 21 to 23. So the Rockets lineup is exactly what it should be. A developmental team with a couple of veterans, because you need these guys. You pay them a little bit more, but they stick around. and they know their role. And I think it's fantastic what the way they're managing it now. But when it comes to the Luke Tuck, Philip Méchard, Tyler Thorpe, Jared Davidson, Riley Kidney, Joshua Roy, Sean Farrell, I think they're going to have a very strong Laval team. But I don't see any future impact players on the forward side. I think the best prospect for the NHL, I said it last year, I think is still Florian.
Yeah.
But again, he's let's face it, he's probably a bottom six player if he makes it. So Méchard, forget about him. Luke Tuck, we thought he could be a fourth liner because the big guy, maybe one day. But look, we're not talking about impact players. So with the forwards, very good for the American Hockey League, very good show in Laval this year. But NHL players, forget it. There's nothing wrong with that. The best prospects are in the NCAA. And a lot of guys like Slavkovsky, who's only 21, well, he's in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the American Hockey League is mostly a farm team, a reserve team, where you develop goalies and defensemen. But as for forwards, when they're very, very good, they play right away. I mean, Cole Caulfield played, 10 games in Laval? So so let's not get our hopes too high with the forwards. Now, defensemen, they have a mix of older players like Clermont and Delgaizo, exactly. Now they have the young guys, Trudeau, Larocque, Reinbacher, and Engstrom. And look, Reinbacher, very important year for him when he comes back. I think he still can be an impact player. I haven't given up on him, but at some point we have to figure out, is it bad luck, or is it he's just injury prone? And if he's injury prone, he's not going to be very useful. And those are very important seasons for his development, and he's losing them right now. He lost a year, and so we'll see. I think this is probably the guy that I'm going to focus on this year in Laval. This is the guy to watch because he's obviously Habs' top prospect with Fowler on that team. Adam Engstrom, look, I like the guy. I always thought that he had a chance of being a sixth defenseman in the league, but he goes from wow, he's great, to what a terrible play, and what a good period, what a bad period. Still young for a defenseman. Give him another season, but this is a guy probably who's going to have to take a step forward if next year he wants to make the team. So Reinbacher, Engstrom, like I say, Engstrom supporting defenseman, Reinbacher possible impact player, and in net, I like Kapanen, by the way. I think this is a guy that you can call up if Dobesh has a problem, because he's proven that he could play in the NHL. He had some very good sequences. So I like the signing, and it was good that he wasn't claimed on waivers the other day. Fowler, the Habs drafted tons of goalies ever since Kent Hughes arrived. And I like the strategy because come, the fourth, fifth, sixth round, why take a guy who has basically a 0.001% chance of making the NHL? Why not take a goalie? Because goalies are voodoo. You don't know what's going to happen. And just for instance, just a little parenthesis, I was in Boisvert on Sunday, and I watched my team play against Boisvert. Gatineau was in Boisvert, and Radkov was in net for Boisvert. And I was sitting behind the net, and I saw him for 2 periods, close up. And he's very, very good. He's a very, very good goalie. And people around me, they were talking, wow, this is a good goalie. And they're not Habs fans, they were scouts and talking. And they like his technique and stuff. So you see, that's another one. Not saying he's going to make it, not saying he's the next Patrick Roy, but this is a good prospect to have. So Fowler right now is the crown jewel in net. There's other guys coming up. We shall see. I think Fowler, if he has a great season this year, I wouldn't be shocked if they gave him a shot to be Montembeault's backup next year.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, do you want Fowler to play a lot in the American Hockey League, or do you just want to give him 25 games in the NHL? And then what do you do with Dobesh? I think it'll depend on Dobesh's performance this year.
Yeah.
But Fowler, at some point, there's no rush. It wouldn't be a big deal if he went back to Laval next year, but probably next year would be his last season in Laval before he makes it to the NHL for good. So 1 or 2 seasons left for Fowler. He's going to be a key guy for the team. And look, I think the Rocket could go very far. What did they make the Final Four last year? I think they made the Final Four. They were just eliminated by
they lost to Kapanen. It was funny.
Yeah, the Checkers, which was a very, very experienced team. I mean, it was
swept.
No NHL prospects, really. They were just an experienced AHL team. So that's why it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's good when the farm team goes far in the playoffs, but it's not the end of the world if they don't. What matters is the individual development. So I think right now you can see that after like 4 years, the Hughes-Gordon administration has put their own stamp on everything. Because you look at the roster in Laval and it's becoming more and more their prospects. So, and they've built a team the way I would build it, which is with mostly young guys and a few veterans. And, the goalie tandem is perfect. I mean, a young guy with Kapanen, I mean, is perfect. So it should be a very, very fun season on Laval for the fans. I know the house is packed every game almost. And they should have a good show this year. As for NHL prospects, look, they're not all NHL prospects, but Fowler, Reinbacher at the top, then Engstrom, Florian, Owen Beck. Interesting to see their progress. So that's my analysis of the Rocket.
Yep, and the Rocket season gets underway this weekend in Manitoba.
Yeah.
They start against the Moose, and we asked the guys yesterday a little bit about that, and they all love it. They are all very big fans of starting on the road with a road trip with the boys to really bond and to not have to go to Manitoba in February. They were all very, very happy about that.
I'll be watching both games, and next Monday on Trust the Process, we will recap the first couple of Rocket games.
Excellent. Snake, before we move on, there was one more prospect that I forgot about. Slipped my mind when we were talking about NCAA. There's one other guy, really, but I don't know if he's got a real shot down the road. Sam Harris had a hat trick for Denver University.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's been scoring at a very interesting rate so far in the NCAA, but does he have the intangibles of an NHL player?
No, because what happens is how you execute, how fast you can execute. And I think the difference between a lot of junior or college superstars and NHL who don't make it to the NHL and those who do is how fast you can process everything, how fast you can execute. And I don't think he does. So I see a guy with a ceiling of, American. It's an American Hockey League ceiling, basically.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, folks, let us know in the comments section which prospects you're most excited about this season. Let us know if there's any prospects we forgot to talk about that you want to hear more from. And of course, always send in your questions. We're going to get to our mailbag a little bit later in the show, but we love the questions we've been receiving. They're all fantastic. And I think we got a good one today. But before we move on here, it's time to give a big thank you to our partners who make this show possible. I want to give a big thank you, of course, to Cheapest T-Shirts. Folks, it's simple. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you'll find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They are proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every day. Cheapesttshirts.ca is the go-to source for teams, businesses, events, apparel printing companies, and resellers. And it's also perfect for individual shoppers who just want the best deals on everyday apparel. Plus, Enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. Of course, you can always bet the beauties and go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older, and please play responsibly. Quick little fantasy segment here for my poolers listening to the show. The drafts are done. You have your team. You're ready to start the season, okay? Now is the time to look at the waiver wire. Which players are still available, all right? I got two for you. Marco Rossi is rostered in 27% of leagues. That means he's available in most of them, okay? He is playing first-line center with Kaprizov and Matthew Boldy on his wings, okay? And first power play. Talk about upside. I love Marco Rossi's upside this season. We haven't seen, the big explosion from him. Decent season last year, but new contract in his back pocket. Minnesota's primed. They're ready to go. I really like this for Marco Rossi. If he's available in your league, you need a center or just a forward, give that a big think. And the other guy I'd like to talk about from the Anaheim Ducks, a team that I'm pretty high on this year, Snake, is Troy Terry. He is rostered in 19% of leagues. This is a guy who's going to be playing first line with Leo Carlsson and Chris Kreider and power play one. This is a steady point producer. He's not going to blow the bank, all right? But as a bottom, depth piece on your team, if you got an injury or something, definitely invest in Troy Terry. Am I on the right path here, Snake? What do you think?
Look, with Rossi, I'm always wondering how long is this going to last? I think Rossi has exceeded my expectations compared with his draft year, because I'm always concerned about these centermen who are like 5'9", but he still managed to get over 60 points last year, I think. The question is, what's his ceiling? Is he a point per game player? I really doubt it. I know he's going to play with Kaprizov and Boldy, who are fantastic players. But is it going to last? Is he going to stay on that top line? Is he going to get injured? I really don't know. So I think if you're expecting 60 points, he's a good pickup. But if you're aiming for a point per game player and trying to hit a home run, then I'm not so sure. As for Troy Terry has had some ups and downs in Anaheim, but he's a good scorer. He's a good player. I think he will obviously stay in the top 6. Now, I think his performance will depend on two things. How well do the young players progress, like Leo Carlsson? Is Leo Carlsson going to have a breakout season, or is he going to be a 50-point player? We don't know yet. Also, Chris Kreider, does he have anything left in the tank? I think these lines are going to change at some point, but Troy Terry will be a fixture on the top 6. It's just a matter of finding the right match for him. Like you say, he's not going to break the bank, but probably you could write him down as a 60-point player.
As depth pieces in a fantasy team, that's what you want to hear, okay? High upside on one guy and very decent floor on the other. You kind of know what to expect from Troy Terry. Safe options. I like both guys if you're looking on the waiver wire. Now, on the flip side, I'm not done here, okay? I got two guys that I think you should trade early on. The first, Luke Hughes, is rostered in 94% of leagues. Great player. Fantasy-wise, not a fan. He's playing on the second power play in New Jersey, which, not great. However, the only kind of hope Luke Hughes owners should have is Dougie Hamilton getting injured, because it seems like it happens every year. So in that sense, if you're holding on to Luke Hughes for that reason, by all means, keep him around. And if you have a dynasty league, of course, keep him. That's a no-brainer, right? But if you're just in a regular points league, I don't know that he's got that upside to be 94% rostered. Like, if you have him as your fifth defenseman, riding the bench most games, that's fine. But I think you could get good value for him if you trade him early on. Okay, that's why I say trade early. Go on based on name value alone. Sign the new deal. I think someone in your league could maybe overpay for Luke Hughes.
Yeah,
that's a guy I would consider trading early. And the other one, we're sticking with defensemen here. Zane Parekh is rostered in 66% of leagues.
Wow.
Okay, 66%. Now, I understand that a lot of those are dynasty leagues, and please, if you have Zane Parekh in your dynasty league, keep him. But if it's just, again, a regular points league, he made the team, but he might not get that much ice time, and I don't know that he'll even play some games, right? He's definitely not power play one to start the season. That's Mackenzie Weegar. He was good last year. He's probably still going to be good this year. For this season alone, Zane Parekh, I don't love the fantasy ceiling there, so that's why I'm saying try to trade him early on, again, based on name value. Everyone knows, okay, he's got that offensive ceiling, he's offensive defenseman. I don't really think he's going to get the good opportunities this year, okay? Those are two guys I would consider trading early on. Snake, what do you think?
Well, I have a hard time sometimes separating fantasy hockey from like real hockey.
I wouldn't trade Luke Hughes in real life.
That's it. Look, I think I kind of agree with you that on a yearly basis, if it's just a one-year pool, it's a risk because he doesn't necessarily get the most power play time. On a keeper's pool, yes, you do keep Luke Hughes. As for Parekh, how many 19-year-old defensemen in the history of the NHL really were real serious point producers?
Mm-hmm.
Not many. So Zane Parekh for this year, forget it. As for the future, I think it depends on. Obviously, I like his offensive upside, but the point is he cannot defend. So how much will it affect his playing time? So it's very nice to have a guy who has offensive skills, but if he can't defend, coaches are not going to play him 20 minutes a game or 22 minutes a game. So, and a player usually, they don't keep players just to be power play specialists. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it could make sense, but really, some guys would only play 4 or 5 minutes a game. Parekh long-term, I really don't know because I don't know what kind of career he can have due to the fact that he can defend. So I'll leave it up to you. I wouldn't bet on him on a keeper's pool. But like I say, I always say I'm not a great pooler. I analyze players based on what they do on the ice. So as far as pool recommendations, I'm not the best person to talk to. I can just only evaluate players on the ice. And what I see from Zane Parekh is a guy who can defend, unfortunately.
So, further cements my point that he might not get the ice time desired for your fantasy league. Again, try to trade these players early on before you regret keeping them. Okay, just saying. Now, Snake, it is time to go digging in the mailbag. Our question today comes from Justin, is saying, ask Snake, I'm asking him, why he doesn't think the Leafs, why he doesn't think the Leafs can win the Cup this season. He thinks they are done as Cup contenders, whereas they actually became tougher to play against and more built for the playoffs. Tavares accepted a hometown discount contract, which really helps them. Okay, interesting. Snake, did you actually say all of those things?
Yeah.
So do you?
Well, I said basically, I think that ship has sailed when it comes to the Leafs winning the Cup.
And you still stand.
And I understand. Yeah, I understand that some might interpret it as, I'm writing them off because Mitch Marner is gone, But Mitch Marner was not good in the playoffs. So what's the problem? True, it's a fair assessment. I don't know if this is what our listener was thinking, but it would be a fair assessment. Now, I'm going to tell you, yes, they added some grit, and I like the fact that they got Nicolas Roy, because they were losing Marner anyway. So I really love the fact that they got Nicolas Roy. Matthew Nyes, is built for the playoffs. That I agree. But it doesn't have to do with this. I'm really, really concerned about their defensive group. I look at this. Chris Tanev. Does he have anything left in the tank? Morgan Riley, always liked the guy's offensive display, but can't really defend. Now in net, what's going to happen with Joe Wool? I think he's not going well because he went to the Players Assistance Program. Is he going to be back? They had to claim Caden Primo. Mm-hmm. So hopefully for them, Caden Primo is back in the American Hockey League and Wool is back for the playoffs. I just don't see enough depth on defense. Ekman Larson is kind of, I wouldn't say over the hill, but it's like, I don't get excited when I see the guys, on defense. Brendan Carlo is okay, but he's not what he used to be in Boston. And Philip Myers, Simon Benoit, Jake McCabe is okay. I like Jake McCabe. But to me, this is not a Stanley Cup winning group. The forwards, Matthews, Nylander, they're going to score. That's for sure. Tavares, like the listener says, great deal for the salary cap. I mean, the guy is obviously going to his contract is going to be worth it. He's going to make more points than the regular 4 million guy. As much as he wasn't worth 11 million, he's more worth than 4 million. So that discount was very, very good. But, I look at, Matthias Maccelli, Max Domi, Kalle Yarncroc, Nick Robertson, Scott Lawton, who's injured right now. They got Sammy Blais. I don't see a Stanley Cup winning team. And I don't see anything moving forward that can help them unless, maybe in 3 years they sign McDavid or something and he plays with Matthews. But even then, I think that ship has sailed. I don't think that Lamoriello did a good job. I don't think Kyle Dubas did a good job with this. They were given really an awesome threesome with Marner, Matthews, and Nylander. And in 2016, when they all started pretty much at the same time, I really thought that within the next decade, the Maple Leafs would win 1 or 2 or maybe 3 Stanley Cups.
Wow.
Yeah. And I really followed them closely because I like rebuilds. And me, it's not the fact, they're in Toronto, you're in Montreal. No, I you know me, Shayne. I don't care about these things.
Exactly.
I don't care about these things. I like interesting hockey teams to follow, mostly rebuilds. That's why I like the Habs rebuild right now. I like the Sharks rebuild. So it has nothing to do with the city they play in. And honestly, I didn't like the Tavares signing because I thought that it was not a good allocation of resources. That $11 million could have been used elsewhere. It was kind of overkill. And I know you always need offense. You always need more and more offense. But at some point, there's a salary cap. The salary cap, what didn't help them is that it was pretty much stale for a few years. So that didn't help them. They were probably expecting a higher salary cap when they signed these big deals with Matthews and Marner and Nylander, but it didn't happen. So they had a cap crunch. They had to basically have American Hockey League players, for their bottom 6 and their 5th and 6th and 7th defensemen. That didn't help them. But I still think it was not well managed. The Patrick Marleau thing, it cost them the picked overall, which became Seth Jarvis. Not sure they would have picked Seth Jarvis, but still, it was worth Seth Jarvis. So there were a lot of mistakes. I think Lamoriello was a disaster. I think Kyle Dubas was not much better. And Treliving, who knows? I don't think he was very good in Calgary. Toronto right now, I think it's a mixed bag, the kind of work that he's done. We'll see. Look, I'm not rooting against them. And if they win the cup, I mean, look, I will have been wrong. But I don't know. I just don't see it.
I just think there's too much pressure on Matthews and Nylander to perform this year because they lost Marner, which is 100 points out the window. And statistically speaking, they had the worst defensive core last season. So, and it's not going to get much better. So there's a lot of pressure on a few guys. If they don't perform, finished.
And you know what? They didn't even keep Easton Cowan. Who was a junior star. He was sent down from someone told me, someone texted me last night that Cowan was down. I saw Cowan at the Memorial Cup. I never saw him as the star that some Leafs fan saw in him. But it's still a guy who I think who could have been in, considering the state of their bottom six, he could have been on the bottom six. Why did they send him down? It's probably not a good sign. So there are not many prospects coming up for the team. It is what it is. Is Marner going to stay in 3 years when his contract expires? Who knows? Maybe he'll be in a position where he can ask for like 17, 18, 19 million dollars, which is probably what he will do, depending on how much he scores in the next 3 years. Look, unless something drastically changes in the next couple of years, I think Toronto missed the boat.
Well, Justin, thank you for your question. And you can answer us again in the chat if you'd like and tell us why you think the Toronto Maple Leafs are contenders. Folks, this was a great show, and we apologize for the 1 day delay, but we'll never miss an episode, and we'll be back on Thursday, okay, to talk some prospects, talk some draft, all that fun stuff. And of course, we're going to get the Snakes Hot Take, my favorite segment of the week. I highly encourage you, I might be biased in saying it, but I highly encourage you to like, subscribe, and hype the show. It does actually help, okay? It tells the algorithm that you like the show, and it promotes it on other people's homepages. So we appreciate everybody who does that and supports us and writes to us in the chat. You don't go unnoticed. Thank you. Thank you to Snake. Thank you to Agnello and Sammy back at Master Control. I'm producer Shayne. This has been another great edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you Thursday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.